No, I think that's good. Yep.
Mine's good. right. Well, welcome everybody tonight to the mayoral debate. I'm Paula Vista, Devils Lake Chamber Executive. We're presenting the mayoral debate, the Devils Lake Chamber, and I want to thank the Lake Region State College for hosting it here this evening, especially Doug Darling, Aaron Wood, and thank you so much for coming and being with us this evening. I want to especially thank a couple of team members with us as well, Susie Kenner and Allison Smitten. They're going to be the ones standing on the end with the microphone, so thank them so much. I'm going to hand this off without further ado to our moderator this evening, Adam Ladwick, all the way from Fargo, came back to be with us this evening. Let's give him a hand of applause. Thank you, Adam, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you very much, Paula, and it is great to be back here in Devils Lake. It's brought back a lot of great memories. I really do. This place holds a very special spot in my heart. So I'm excited to be moderating the debate tonight. The candidates are going to be asked 6 questions, and then they will turn it over to the audience for any questions you have after that. The candidates will have 3 minutes to answer each question. When time is up, their mic will be cut off. So yeah. We'll see how strict we are about that. And then once the questions are turned into the audience, if you want to ask a question, you can find Susie or Allison. They will be on each side of the auditorium with a microphone. And then we do ask the questions are respectful, of course. And then it is going to be live streamed. So please no clapping, yelling, etc. so the people watching will be able to hear what's going on. And also, please silence your cell phones. No flash photography, no filming. Again, it's live stream. You'll be able to go watch it again if you wanted to. So without further ado, let us bring out our 3 candidates for Devils Lake Mayor: Shane Hamry, Joe Mertens, and Jim Moe. Now, Shane Hamry, he has been with the Devils Lake Volunteer Fire Department for 18 years. He was the secretary for the Devils Lake chapter of Fishing Has No Boundaries, and he is currently a Devils Lake City Commissioner. Joe Mertens was a teacher and administrator at Four Winds High School for 28 years. He served on the Devils Lake Park Board from 1996 to 2012, and he owns a lawn care business that serves 200 customers in the Devils Lake area. And then Jim Moe was the wastewater and water system supervisor for Devils Lake Utilities for 21 years. He retired after 28 and a half years in the North Dakota Army National Guard. And of course, he served in the Devils Lake Volunteer Fire Department for 45 years, including 17 years as the fire chief in Devils Lake before retiring last year. So there are your candidates. They drew straws to see who has to answer the first question first. And I believe, Shane, you drew the short straw? Okay, sorry about that. And then we will rotate for each subsequent question. And then at the end of the debate, the candidates will be in the entryway to the auditorium to greet the public and answer any of the questions that you might have. So are you guys ready for the first question? Okay, so as the mayor, you will be the head of the city government, and the commission is charged with making policy for the city. It has been known that some mayors and commissioners have gotten involved in personal matters, daily operations, various departments. So what are your plans and feelings on city governance if elected?
As in the personal part and getting into that, or just governing the policies?
Just kind of how involved the mayor should be in like personnel matters, daily operations, various departments.
Well, you've got your portfolios you're under, and you will govern them for the policies and stuff like that. We're not there to hire or fire, just the heads of the departments. So that's left up to the heads of the departments to hire their crews underneath that. Daily operations, that's why you hire the people you put into those spots to manage that. Like you said, we're there to govern the policies.
All right, is that your answer? Cool.
That's my answer.
Perfect. Plenty of time left. And then Joe, same question.
I feel the mayor's job is to be the city leader, and it's his job to help create policies that affect all the people of Devils Lake. And I think you need to talk to your commissioners, and they all have portfolios, and everybody has a portfolio. And I think the mayor's job is to make sure that they follow the policies, stay professional, and work as a team. The commissioners need to be a team, and I think the mayor has to be the person, is the guy that leads that team. As far as personal, I think you stay out of it. You've set your policies, procedures, And then you've hired a city administrator, and he's the person that should be making sure that policies and procedures are followed. It's not your job to run around and do the day-to-day thing. Your job is to create policies and procedures and create a good government that people look up to, and the policies are corrected. That's what I think the mayor should do.
All right, thank you, Joe. Jim, your answer.
Okay, well, thank you for the question, and I believe not to micromanage departments. You are a policymaker, you are a leader of the community, you're an ambassador to the city, and you should be working with the chamber, the Forward Devils Lake people, and the tourism to establish our needs for our community and try to build a relationship with bringing people to our community and not day-to-day operations. You should be knowledgeable of what happens throughout our community, because if there's an emergency or something serious happens, where do the people go to? They go to the leader of your community, and you need to have answers. You need to be informed, but you don't need to be directing policy. You just establish policy and work with that.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. All right, I'll move on to our next question. So during an election campaign, most candidates say that you need more economic development. And so what is your position on economic development for Devil's Lake? How would you change or improve? And what do you think and what could you do to improve the efforts currently being done? And we'd like some specific examples. So Joe, we'll start with you.
Okay, I think that one of the biggest things is we have to somehow get businesses to town. And I think it's the mayor's job to get out and sell the town of Devil's Lake. To convince people it's a good place to start a business. It's a good place to raise kids. Economic development's only gonna come if we get more people to town and keep our businesses and make them great and help them in any way we can. The downtown area needs to be beautified a little better than it is. But in order to do that, we have to get businesses to go downtown. I think the economic development in our town has to start concentrating on our town and how we get people and get young people to start investing in Devil's Lake. We need young entrepreneurs to come here and say, yes, I think I can have a nice, professional, profitable business in Devil's Lake. And we've got to sell the people that we are that. And as a mayor, I think that's his job.
All right, thank you, Joe. Jim.
Well, I actually agree with what Joe just said. Is we got to get our young people involved, find out why they want to leave, and encourage them to establish a business, become a young entrepreneur, get involved in the politics of our community, and they find out that they would want to raise their families here in this community. We've got a great community. We've had a lot of things going for our community, but we do lack in some areas. We need to fix it, and we need to encourage young people to step up to the plate. How do we do that? Well, think out of the box. I mean, I got an opportunity to establish a fishing tournament many years ago, and it turned into the success that it has. I think there's someone out there that has an idea. All we got to do is take that idea and build off of it. I think as a city, we have to support it by encouraging them to get involved, and then try to see what we can do to make it get off the ground. I know most of the time it's a financial issue, so what we have to do is work with our local financial institutions, look for the grants. There's a lot of grants out there for young up-and-coming entrepreneurs, and we gotta help them get there. Get someone that is knowledgeable, but we gotta get these people, these young people here to get an interest in something, and then let's see if we can expand on it. And it's our job as city leaders to help them go in the right direction.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And Shane, your answer.
Well, they've taken a lot of it, so I'll just say that I agree with both what they said. With your economic development too, though, it's an investment in growing your economy, enhancing the prosperity and quality of life for all your community members. There's three different ways that I look at that: business retention and expansion, enhancing the existing businesses that we have; business creation, encouraging the growth of new businesses in our town. Yep. And then there's ways out there we need to help get new businesses. I've got a lot of people that have talked to me on starting little shops. Well, it's hard to find a building in town to start that where the rent's not over the roof on them. But also supporting our local businesses that are here, getting out, visiting with them, sitting down, seeing what they need, or ways or ideas that we can use from them to help other businesses that are coming here. But you know, bringing businesses in to help the economy is great, because it's gonna help on the tax base, and if we can get businesses here, maybe we can start trying to alleviate some of the property tax.
All right, thank you very much, Shane. All right, we'll move on to our next question, from business to housing, affordable housing. That is a big issue in a lot of communities, and it is very much needed to help with economic development in those areas. They kind of go hand in hand, and it's been mentioned several times that Devils Lake needs more affordable housing, and I'm sure a lot of small towns say that. So how would you create more affordable housing in Devils Lake, and what would your plans be for funding affordable housing in this city? And be as specific as you can, please. Jim.
Well, thank you for that question. Affordable housing is definitely an issue within our community. We have a lot of areas around our community that are part of our city limits. We get creative. I know there's a lot of communities, row housing, you know, there's some affordable housing there such as that. I don't know how many are familiar with row housing, but it's kind of like townhomes built together, kind of like what LaFleur's have built out by Home of Economy, something similar to something like that. If we get some of those available, affordable housing also comes with our financial institutions. Maybe there's a program that we can work with our banks to low interest type programs. As far as state involvement, we probably get the State Bank of North Dakota involved in some of that. I know there's been TIF districts established now for some affordable housing in Devils Lake, so we just have to work with more of that, find out what are the needs of our young people, is that the type of housing they want. But we have had some programs going on within the city this past several years. The West Side Project was probably one of the most unique ones that we started on, and that was pretty successful. I believe maybe only one lot left available out there. So those programs have been working, but we still need more. So I think we have to look at what we can do, discuss it with the entire city commission, and come up with what we're comfortable with, and then make sure that we get that out there to the public to take
All
a
right.
look at.
Thank you very much, Jim. Shane, your answer.
Well, with affordable housing, we do have some programs out there, but it would be nice to get with the contractors and sit down with them and see if there's programs that we can run, whether it's buy down programs on lumber, property tax, there's property tax relief. You know, it's gonna have to be creative to try to do this. The city's running out of property that we own. We've only got a few lots left. So we'd have to end up purchasing more lots or working with owners of lots that they've previously got.
All right, thank you very much, Shane. And then I'll move on to our next question. We're just, oh, you didn't get a go. I'm so sorry, man. I'm sorry. Joe,
Best looking guy here.
do you want an extra minute?
No.
Sorry, your answer. I'm so sorry.
That's really a tough question, to be honest with you. There's a lot of, if you see any town, a house that comes up for sale in this town, it's not long and it's bought up. And that's because people want to move from an apartment into a house. And we, as a city, I don't know if we could sit down and say, hey, we're going to put together these cooker cutter homes and we're going to build them and then we're going to try to sell them to people. I think we have to look at it as we have these lots, and if we can afford to give them at a reasonable price and help the young people get into them at a reasonable interest rate. But as a city, I mean, there's a lot of empty apartments because they're either overqualified to get into them or they don't qualify enough. But as a city, we have to try to somehow figure out where is that range? Is that house need to be 200,000 or is it 300? What do young people and the middle-aged people that want to get out of an apartment, what can they afford? How can they afford it? And there's places in the city of Devils Lake where we could build, but it isn't really the city's responsibility to build, or is it our responsibility to go out and find a contractor or a company that'll come in and say, we will build these houses at this price, and then sell them and say, yes, we can still make a profit. Because nobody's going to work for nothing. But young people kind of say, well, can I afford that? I want this. I want better. Well, the problem is, in Devils Lake, there's like houses here and then houses here, and there's no houses in the middle. That's what we need. But I'm not 100% sure how you do that. I know that there's some apartments being built, and there's ideas out there. But as a city, we have to sell our town to get people to build so they stay here and buy houses.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, Joe. Again, sorry again for almost skipping you there. So now let's move to our next question. We're hitting kind of the big topics that a lot of towns are facing, and now education. Another very important component for any community: good quality education, good instructors, good facilities. The Devils Lake School Board did a survey of patrons asking for opinions on 4 options for the school district. That includes a new middle school with an auditorium, a middle school with an ag program, or a middle school with both an ag program and an auditorium. So what is your opinion on this bond issue if it is put to a vote? Shane?
Well, you know, they put it out there for the community to decide on that. From what was heard on that, none of them really got a overwhelming majority. You know, our school district, you know, they're looking at the middle school. The basement is unsafe. There's kids down there. It's tough right now. You're looking at inflation costs. You're looking at prices. Wet fields right now, farmers aren't getting in. They're going to be the major tax base right there. And you're also going to be hitting community members that are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know. I'm mixed on that one.
And not a lot of easy answers here. That's why we're asking these questions. So Joe, your answer.
Well, with an educational background, I honestly feel the middle school has to be built in some form, whether it's all 4 forms or some form, because of the factor is that the middle school is pretty much outused as its use as an educational facility. And I know a lot of people, well, you know, it's going to cost me more money, it's going to cost, but, you know, we're all up here talking about kids and betterment for our students and youth, and we're either going to have to bite the bullet now in the next couple of years, or we're going to wait 10 years, and if that boiler system goes out, I want people to give me an answer of where we're going to educate kids at. That boiler fixed, and they've been told longevity is not much left. What are you going to do if the boiler system completely goes out? Where are you guys going to educate our kids? Are we going to do it when we had the fire and shove them in this church, that church, memorial building? You know, we had a bad fire that put the middle school out of production for a while, and the kids were put everywhere to be educated. And I think, and I know this is hard because I had a guy argue with me, but to some people it's going to be a burden. But so we pass the burden on to the next generation, because there's going to come a time that middle school is not going to be functional. And then we're going to have to build a school. And my biggest issue is you don't build a school in a year. If we even got started, it's probably 4 years out. And everybody says, well, what are you going to do with the middle school? Well, it's on the historical register. Let's worry about that problem when it comes up. And there's a lot of older people with fixed income. Well, you know, they don't have kids involved. But look about your grandkids going there. Look about quality of teachers we can get if we get a better school. No AC, that thing has no air conditioning. It's old, it's got mold. There's so many health issues that the community probably doesn't really realize. But they're still going with it and trying. And I think it got, like Shane said, it's got to come to a vote of the people and see what you want to do for your youth, your young people. Because we're going to be a town, we're going to have school. It's what quality of school and what quality of education we're going to have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. And Jim?
Well, that is a difficult discussion here, and I agree with everybody, but we all got to understand that building is old. I believe it was like the early 1900s when it was built. It has served its time, well. We've had a lot of alumni go through that facility, and I am definitely in favor of giving our kids the education and the quality of education they deserve. I want to get creative, though. I understand the needs of the rest of the community. We have a lot of issues, the city, the school board, the county, park board. We have to sit down and gather our agencies together and prioritize. We need to make sure that maybe school is number one, without question. I believe it probably is, in my opinion, but may not be everybody else's. But we as boards need to discuss what can our community handle. There's no question I'd love to see the best school system in this community, because without the good medical facility and a school system, how do we get people to move to Devil's Lake? And what we need to do is encourage more to move to Devil's Lake, which will put less of a tax burden on the rest of us. But I really believe that we have to do something with the school. How we do it, auditorium has been huge. I've got some ideas on an auditorium. I've suggested to some people You know, we may not be able to have it all together, in my opinion, but we have a facility that I think could maybe be an adequate auditorium in town already. But not everybody will agree with that, because it is old theater, but it's built for sound, and I thought that would make a great auditorium. My thoughts. I don't know the insides of it that well, but I'm trying to think outside what we can do to reduce costs so that we can sell this idea to the public, because it's going to take a lot of people, a lot of work to get out there and get the people to buy into it. We got to understand we have a lot of people on fixed incomes that really cannot spare any. I'd like to maybe develop a program to see that if we can maybe keep some of those people out of having to help pay for it. How are we going to do that? I don't know. I have to talk to people smarter than I to do that. But I think if we could make sure that they don't have to pay the lion's share of some of that, we could probably do something. But if we get creative, I think we can do a lot of things. But we got to get, I think a school, I got 12 grandchildren, and I'm hoping that 7 of them will be going through that new school. And in order to get people to our community and build our community, we have to forge ahead, and sometimes it requires us to spend a little money. And yeah, do we have to dig deep? But it's our children that we're talking about, our grandchildren. And I think that if we look at it that way, if there's a program that we can do, you build to help offset it, I think that would be the way to go. But I'm on the side of a good education and a quality school for our children.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Now, on to our next question, focusing on healthcare. Now, healthcare has been in the focus in Devil's Lake recently and in the whole Lake region. So what is your opinion on the current healthcare situation in Devil's Lake? And if you identify any issues, what is your plan to correct those issues? And please be specific. We'll start with you, Joe.
Well, the one thing about our healthcare system is, straight up, we got 2 companies buying for clients. And there's a lot of, I've interviewed or sat in with interviews with them. I think they both have plans. It's just that they don't want to tell people things are going to happen and then they don't come true. Yes, we need a healthcare problem, but we need to get together as the commissioners and go to them and say, hey, what can we do to help? Because we need better healthcare. And we need people to go and find out what the real things are happening. But we still have 2 separate entities want you to be their customer. And we need to start getting them to partnership and have surgeries done here that you don't have to go to Grand Forks to have simple surgeries. But right now, they aren't doing that. But both people that are the head of those institutes have told me that they are working on things. But there's certain bridges that have been burnt. That's the bottom line. And it's not going to be done in a week or 30 days. But there is some things coming both ways that hopefully, and with Sanford too, now they've made, and hopefully they can get these agreements together so we can have better health care. You know, the hospital has planned to start building a new emergency room. Bigger, better, more equipped. But it's one of those deals, unless you hear about it, people don't understand. You don't build a bigger $1 million emergency room in a week. There's steps because they're a big conglomerate. People don't realize CHI truly isn't CHI St. Alexis. It's Common Spirits. It's 2 businesses that merged to become one giant conglomerate. And you have to get through the steps to get something done at your local hospital. And people have to be patient. We know we need better health care, but we have to do it in a manner where we are constructive with the 2-3 companies now, rather than just going in and demanding things. It doesn't work when you demand stuff. Better work when you try to work with them.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. And Jim, your answer.
Well, here's where I'll disagree with you a little bit, Joe. Okay, having served on the hospital board for 9 years and 6 years on the foundation board, I have had the luxury to work with CHI, and it wasn't all pleasant. First of all, I want to start out, though, all the employees that work at the hospital and the clinic, they were excellent people. They are doing their jobs the best they can, and it's up to us to provide them the help that we can give them. But CHI has promised this a long time, and I know that there's a group of citizens right now that are working to kind of see what we can do. Our mayor is kind of heading that up. He's really disappointed in how we've been treated, but we've been promised emergency replacement many years ago, and we kept getting pushed off. And having served on it with several others, it was a little frustrating because they didn't really care what we said as a board. They were more worried about getting that dollar and sending it elsewhere. I recently met with the CEO that is currently interim, and had a great conversation, was promised the world, and promises only go so far. We need to fix it. You can go to Grafton and have a rotator cuff surgery. You can go to Candu and they're going to have a new hospital. You got Rugby getting a new hospital. We in Devils Lake deserve to have the finest health care we can. That's another issue that has to bring the people to Devils Lake. If we don't have decent we used to have all the retiring farmers come here, but now they're concerned that they don't get the proper health care because we don't have a doctor. It's a struggle, and it's not maybe all CHI's fault. Doctors are hard to come by. They don't want to come back this way for some reason. So we got to try to maybe get some students that want to go to school, incentivize them to come back. You know, give them some dollars. We got to get doctors here because we need to do surgeries. When I was growing up, I had a doctor who lived right across the street. He made house calls, and he did surgeries in our hospital. We didn't have to get an ambulance ride to Grand Forks for a broken leg, or, you know, I mean, we need a facility that my parents were dying of cancer. We had to drive them back and forth to Grand Forks, excuse me. We shouldn't have to do that because they're already wore out, and then they have to come back this way. We need to be able to do this stuff right here in Devils Lake. And so I am all in on working with either CHI, but man, how many promises are we going to take from them, because they haven't made any progress on anything, and we need to move forward with whatever it is, but we need to joint venture with somebody and get health care here immediately.
All right, thank you very much. Jim, Shane, your answer.
Well, this is where I have to agree with Jim. We have had promises. Back when I worked for Lake Region Ambulance Service, they were going to be doing an ER back then. They had a ICU back then. They kept patients here over the years. They just keep shipping them out. Services are getting less and less. Yeah, we got great clinics. We got great people that work there. We need unified, just like our community, we need unified. We need either CHI to be working with Sanford and Altru really well, or we need to have Altru come in and they work together. Sanford comes in and works. When you got two separate entities like that, they sit and battle each other. Altru put this in their clinic, well, that took patients away from CHI. Sanford's putting this in their clinic, that's going to pull more away from CHI. And then we wonder why we're not getting docs here. I mean, they cut all their traveling nurses. In their radiology department, they're down to a traveler working. You know, healthcare is huge. You go. Oh.
No, please, no comments from the audience while you can continue.
Okay. Everybody's traveling out for surgeries or this or that. It's tough. You spend money in Grand Forks, you spend money in Fargo. If we had that stuff here, you'd be spending money in our town. You'd be staying, you'd be eating, shopping, which supports all our local businesses, supports our community. You know, healthcare is one where that needs to be done.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, Shane. And then we have one more question, then we will get to the audience question portion if you do have any questions. But before we get to that, we're going to be talking about an activity center. Now, we hear that a lot of citizens talking about the need for an activity center in Devils Lake. It'd be good for pretty much everyone, youth, adults, seniors. So what are your feelings on this, and how would you envision it being funded specifically, and would you be in favor of combining it with a wellness center? And we'll start with Jim.
Well, no question, we don't have a bowling alley, we don't have a movie theater, and those are things that we had when I was growing up, and those are important things, you know. And so, yes, do we need them? You bet. I don't know as a city how we fit into supporting it. I think it falls into maybe the park board more so, or even if not even private enterprise, because but we need to encourage and find out what, as a city, maybe we can give them some, you know, some financial support or through tax incentives and things of that nature to, you know, establish something, you know, bring an entrepreneur in that wants to run a movie theater, you know, work with them. Maybe we can help assist in getting some loan funding for them and some state funding, grant funding, you know, but do we need it? Absolutely. Our children deserve it. They, you know, they have to have a place to go, but, you know, it's a struggle. But we also have, you know, been a lot of rumors around here. We have friends south of town that have expressed desire to possibly jump into business with the city. You know, they've already, Spirit Lake has already built remodeled a motel here, and they haven't expressed an interest in maybe having an activity center here, and maybe somehow we need to work with them and encourage them to help us, and maybe we can find some funding and out of the box locations and make something happen. You know, I think we need to work with them more and more all the time. They bring a lot of business to our community. Right now, if we didn't have them working in our community, I don't know where we'd be at some point. So we've got a lot of them working hard, and I tell you what, they're great workers. Every time I've been somewhere, they're friendly, and it's been great. It makes me feel good that they're, you know, want to work within our community, and so I think we need to work with them because they would be supporting all this also, and see what we can do. I don't have all the answers as far as how we do it, but I know that there's people out there that have some thoughts that they could bring forward, and it just takes that little idea of what we can do, and then we have to, as leaders here as a city, we can expand it by talking to our higher level legislators and things of that nature and see what we can do. There's a lot of smart people in this audience, so I'll count on you for some advice.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And Shane, your answer.
Agree with Jim on that. We do need something for our youth, but as sitting on the city commission, this is where I would like the park board to run with it and the city to back them. I mean, that's what our park board is for the youth, the activities. You gotta get the school, the county, our friends to the south. We need the park board. You know, all our entities need to work together, because if we're all together, we'd be unstoppable. You need all these on the same page. Everybody has their ideas of what they want, when they want them. We've just got to, everybody sit down, prioritize them. I think maybe the activity center would have passed last time, but we had so many other things that were being thrown at the community at one time that it just gets overwhelming. So on how to do it, it's got to be a collective effort between the community and all the entities that would be involved with it.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, Shane. And then Joe.
Well, a little background. I was on the park board 14 years ago. We got all the entities together, and we said we need a rec center for our kids. And the problem was nobody could agree on who should run it, how do you fund it, and we sat and butted heads till finally people just quit coming to the meeting. The problem is everybody has their ideas what we need, but nobody wants to release enough power to let somebody take it and run it, and they be kind of like a partner. But we've got entities out there in the private sector that are willing to help. We can build a rec center. Guarantee you we can build a rec center. How do we find the money to sustain a rec center? It's going to run probably $80,000 to $100,000. How do we pay janitors, electricity, all that? Because everybody has money to build something. Boom, we got to build. But we never look at how we're going to take it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, after we get this facility built. And we've got to get together with all the entities, state, college, park board, school, county, city, and everybody sit down and say, okay, this is what's best, and everybody be willing to let go of a little bit, because not everybody's going to get everything they want in that facility. But what's best for the children and the kids of our community? It's to have a place to go, but it has to be structured, it has to be controlled, and as far as the other things that we might want, a movie theater, a bowling alley, there's where we're going to have to get to private sectors and say, you know what, come and invest in our town. We believe that you will make money here. And we've got to sell that idea. And as far as like Jim said, yes, Doug wants to bring something to Devil's Lake, and he wants certain things, but we don't need Spirit Lake coming and building XX, and then we start the building XX. There's buildings in this town that we can utilize, there's places. But we've got to find a central location for a rec center, and everybody agree and make bylaws on who runs it, who funds it, and how, if it gets in any trouble 20 years from now, how is it fixed? Because right now, I know we can raise the money. It's there. There's people ready to, willing to donate. There's institutions that are ready to donate. But you have to have the right rules to run it. We need stuff for our kids. There's a lot of us that are provide for our kids or take them somewhere else to do recs. But we need one in our town. But we need it as a joint community, lake region, everybody that can utilize it. And I agree with Shane on the point that it might have to be run by the park board. But you can't just build it and say, park board, run it. It has to be a joint effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Joe, for your answer to that. And so now we will move on to the audience question portion of it. So we have Susie and Allison standing in the corners with a microphone. Just go to whoever is closest if you have a question for the three candidates. Okay.
Wow.
So I guess I'll start off with one that I had then. I know you talk about a lot of big button issues of housing, healthcare, education, the activity center. So I guess in your opinion, what is the number one priority for the city of Devils Lake, the thing that you would tackle first thing if elected? And we'll start with you, Shane.
Yeah, there is a lot of issues. First thing would be transparency, community involvement. We got to get people more involved with our commissions, see more people showing up to stuff, voicing their opinions. Well, one thing we get in this town is we don't get anything till it truly affects you. And then everybody shows up that's in that area. So if we can get the meetings broadcasted out so everybody's seeing them, listening to them, you know, maybe we'll get more input, we'll get more feedback. We need to be held accountable. We're elected by everybody in the room here, by the community. You know, we work for you guys and gals.
All right, thank you, Shane. And Joe, what would be your top priority as mayor?
To be honest, it's got to be a rec facility, some form. We've got to get something for our kids to do. Second is we need a school. We need a middle school. We need a unified middle school, high school. To other extent, I'm not sure. But I think if you get it planted, you'll get people to donate. You'll get some money from the private sector to help with it. Is it going to cost people some money? Yeah. I think the one survey I watched, it said it was on a $300,000 house, it's like $300 a year. Is that really a lot of money? $25 a week or a month? $25 a month to give your kids a quality education in a quality building? Everybody just looks at, oh, that's $300 more tax dollars. Look at it as $25. Can I save $25 in a month? I believe everybody could cut their budget and save $25. And that's not a $300,000. A $100,000 home's not going to be that much. And the big homes, yeah. But how much education and quality education do you want your kids and your grandkids to have?
All right, thank you, Joe. And then Jim, what would your top priority be as mayor?
Well, with no question, first of all, I think I'd like to get together with all the county, city, the school board, and the park board, and begin the prioritizing process. Okay, let's identify what we would want at the top of our list, and then we have to let the public know what we think our needs are in our community, basically a long-term plan, but I know things need to be done soon, and bring in our friends from Spirit Lake to be part of that meeting and find out what type of investment are we willing to go with and where do we think our monies need to go first. I think a school is probably, in my opinion, probably would be a number one priority. We have other priorities out there also. The city's got priorities, the county has priorities, park board, Spirit Lake, I'm sure. We all have our priorities, and we just have to make sure that they're gonna best suit the needs of our community right now. You know, if we had it all, if we had the great world, you know, and everybody was willing to step up, and yeah, man, let's get that done, and we'll have everybody move into town in a short time. But we got to be reasonable, and I don't know that we can make it all happen right away. But I do believe that we need to sit down and let the public know what we're prioritizing, and let them also decide if that's the right way to go, and go from there. But to get together and make sure I know, Joe, that you said it wasn't possible to get together and butt heads. I understand. I'm sure that is the way it works because everybody wants to be in charge. I don't want to be in charge. I want to just make something happen.
All right, thank you very much. Any audience questions yet? Looks like we have one. Great.
Good evening. There are a number of social issues within Devil's Lake that require attention, such as homelessness, substance abuse, and mental illness. What ideas do you have specific to how to address these issues within our community?
All right, and I believe I'll start with Joe this time. Great question, too.
That's kind of a very good question, for the fact is that we do have a homeless problem that people don't want to believe. We do. We have a homeless facility, but it doesn't allow anybody who has alcohol or marijuana breath on them. They can't come in. So what do we do with them? Do we just leave them out there, or do we look for putting them in jail overnight? I think we need a detox center back here, and I don't know how you go about getting one, but I think that has to happen. If you don't know, I opened the Amtrak Railroad Station. It's open from 10 at night to 7 in the morning, and sometimes at 7 in the morning, there's a few people I have to ask to leave that aren't getting on the train. That's a fact, because they know it's warm. It's a place that they, especially in the winter, that they know they can go in there and they won't be bothered and they can keep warm. As far as mental health, it's a big factor right now, and we don't have enough mental health people. We've got to figure out a way of getting more social workers, more mental health workers, because it is an issue and it's becoming a bigger issue. And I know Human Services is trying to get more people here. But unless it affects you, you don't think it's there. In reality, it is. And it's a problem that the city has, and it's just going to get bigger. So as your mayor, we're going to have to address it. Sometime we're just going to have to address it. We got to figure out something, because it just is going to get bigger as far as mental health and people needing help. And there's some things that are coming down that are going to be forced the law enforcement center to do, and that's going to be an issue. So I think it's just a matter of working together and saying, yes, this is a problem. How do we fix the problem? Instead of saying, well, there's no problem. There's no homeless here. There's no problem. And there really is. So I think it's looking at the problem and seeing how, if we can get state money, federal money, how we can fix it. Because it's not going to go away on its own. So I think that your city leader, like your mayor and your commissioners, need to say, yeah, we got to look at this because it's becoming an issue. And everybody knows mental health is becoming a nationwide issue. So I guess it's going to have to be, let's quit not turning a blind eye and let's start looking at the problem and trying to find ways to fix it.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. And Jim, your answer.
Well, I too agree that it's more of a problem than I ever thought I'd realize either, and that's also homeless vets. Having to work with the VFW, I've been made aware of a lot of homeless vets also. Nobody should be homeless, and if it just takes us to find a facility that, that's kind of foolproof, just allow them to go in there and kind of just be on their own. But I know homelessness needs help. They need doctors, somebody to talk to, but most of these homeless people don't want to listen to you. I don't know, Jack, we've talked to some and they want to be left alone, but they just want a place that's warm. I mean, how do you handle some of that? Because I'd bring them into my own home if I knew I could help somebody and they'd change their ways. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. And how do we fix it? Man, I'm not the bright guy here for that one. I mean, I want to get them help. We got the Human Services Center, but like you said, Joe, they're overwhelmed with cases already. But nobody should be homeless. And at the very least, get them off the streets, find them someplace warm in the wintertime, someplace that they can feel comfortable with. I know I've seen it on the big cities where they've established little tent cities for them and things like that. Is that ideal? Absolutely not. But if we had an old building that was fairly foolproof, that had a shower and a place they could, clean up a little bit and do their own thing, maybe have the law enforcement, and I know that Chief Kanowski probably wouldn't want another thing added to his busy list already, but maybe check on them once in a while. But they don't want to be bothered, most of them, and it's a difficult situation. And I would like to offer them a facility that they could kind of make their own and just kind of, hopefully, that would be a kind of a start. And then, and those that wanted help, we could offer help and up the ladder.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And Shane, your answer.
Well, well, when the homeless shelter closed up, and I sat and talked with a lot of them, trying to find a new place to go. It's a county and city problem. It shouldn't just fall on one entity. I know most of them do end up in the city here, but you know, it took a lot of work, phone calls, conversations to even get them into the place where they have the homeless shelter at now, because most people don't want it in their backyard. They don't want to know that the problem's there. And they got that building. I know I talked to a couple of them, but the problem was it was off of Main Street. Well, no, we can't have it there. We don't want it here. For the mental health part of it, that's tough. I know Mr. Johnson at the law enforcement center, his crew is getting overtaxed with it. They're not health experts. They could use more help there. It's going to be a major fix. It's going to be probably a big hit to the budget to try to do this. You've got an option of a new law enforcement center, where then you can take the old law enforcement center, you can convert that into a homeless shelter. You can have mental health experts there. There's rooms. I mean, it's a big building with a lot of possibilities. It's just like everything else. There's a lot of ideas, thoughts out there.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, Shane. Do we have any other audience questions? Don't be shy. No. Okay. Okay. Yes.
We did.
You did?
We did have one that came in online,
Oh, perfect.
if I could ask it.
Yes.
We are blessed with an incredible resource that shares the city's name, Devil's Lake. The lake itself has created heartache and challenges for all of our residents in the past, but it has also opened the doors for many new opportunities. How does the lake fit into your plans for our community? Where does the balance lie between embracing more water and keeping it dry?
That's a great question. Jim, we'll start with you.
Boy, that is a great question. And having sponsored a fishing tournament and been part of that, that resource is huge for our fire department. So, yeah, that lake is great. And yes, it's been a debate between the tourism and farming industry for many, many years. And what is that stable rate? Well, I know that the city commission has established it several years back at around 46, and I think we were just getting close to that until all these recent weather and snow that we got this winter has probably changed that drastically. So, where do we want it? 46 seemed to be okay with everybody that when they established it. I haven't heard a lot of real negatives with that since then. Personally, where would I like it? Probably a little higher. I mean, when it went to 46, did everybody see everything that it was exposed and how dreadful that looked? It wasn't really nice. When the water's high, it looks beautiful and looks like it's just ready for action, and it's great. Understand the farmers got a different thought on that. So if 46 isn't great, I'd like to listen to what the people would like for a number. I know I've utilized it. I have a place on the lake that we enjoy it, but getting a boat in it, you know, a lot of people invest in the lake, and we have a lot of monies surrounding it in tourism. So it's and of course I get the farmer's perspective too, but we thrive on some tourism industry, and we also need the farmer to survive also. But I'm open to suggestions on that. I mean, I don't want to determine a number here. That would be definitely something that, as a commission, as probably a community, that we can all live with. We have to establish a number that is workable for everybody.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Now, Shane, your answer.
Well, first and foremost, Devil's Lake is an agricultural-based city. Agriculture supported this well before that lake ever came up. Back in the 90s, 80s, I used to fish with my grandpa. He had trees all around it. He never even seen a storm front move in. till it was on top of you. When agriculture is down, the community feels it. Like this year here, you're looking at the wet fields. Farmers aren't going to be getting in as soon as they want to. The crops are going to be different. The restaurants, shops, dealerships, they all feel it. You know, you got farmers that come here, they buy vehicles. Not many out-of-staters that come up here go fishing, they end up buying a vehicle and drive home. So it's tough. Tourism has been great for Devil's Lake in the last, well, since, what, 93. But first and foremost, we are an agricultural city. That's what it's been based on. And when the lake dries up, naturally, that's what will support Devil's Lake again.
All right, thank you very much, Shane. And then Joe, your answer.
Well, first of all, we know the lake brings in a lot of money. That's a fact. But a lot of people, when I'm out here, are saying, well, yes, it does, but then it hurts us because our town really benefits from this and that. But how do we balance where should it be? And how do we balance how much the tourism and the money and the lake brings in? We have a ton of friends that love the lake. Not me, but a lot of people do. But how do you say, okay, these people have more rights than these people to where that lake level is? Where's that balance? And I think the state's going to set the balance anyway. They're going to say the lake's going to be at this, and we can argue and complain, but I honestly believe the state of North Dakota is going to set the level of our lake. Now, can we use the lake to benefit us more? Sure. Jim's tournament helps us immensely for the city of Devil's Lake. The walleye tournament, immensely. But how can we make that more of a factor to the city of Devil's Lake? Because everybody you talk to, it's the lake, the lake. How about our town? And how do we make that balance? The lake is great, but the town needs some help. You know, and that's where I'm going to throw this out there because I'm not sure if everybody knows about it. But the park board has asked for a 1/4-cent sales tax, raising money to sustain the buildings that we may build. And the 1/4-cent sales tax is going to get money from the people from out of our town, at the restaurants, at the motels, buying things here that would help our town immensely. But it's a little gray area that's on the ballot that a lot of people don't know about. I think it's very, very important. If we're going to move forward, we're going to need that 1/4-cent sales tax for the recreation of our town. People don't realize the money that's spent by those people that come to our lake. If we can just get 1/4 of a penny every time they spend the money, it'll add up in a hurry. You guys guess what it probably will make us? I'd say over $400,000 in a year. Now we have money to, if we have a rec center or somebody has a need, there's a board that's going to be formed that's going to say, here's how that money is going to be spent. The board's going to decide. It's not going to be park board money. It's going to be a board of the city, county, park board. I think 2 at large. The whole thing hasn't been worked out totally. But it's going to be on the ballot. And the people of Devil's Lake have to decide if we want improvements and we want things. Let's have people from outside of our town help us pay for it. And the people in town that 1 penny on $4, 10 cents on $40, really not a lot. And I know we're getting hit with higher diesel and higher gas.
That is your time. Thank you very much. Yep. Now I believe it looks like we have another audience question.
Yeah, I got a question for the mayors up there. About 2 years ago, I'm a city commissioner myself. I was approached by a county commissioner wanting the city, the county, and the Spirit Lake, the 3 entities, get together and build a homeless shelter for our homeless people that needs housing in the wintertime, veterans, whatever. What's your feelings on the 3 entities getting together to build something like that?
All right, we'll start with Shane. Your thoughts on a joint venture like that?
Thank you, Commissioner Volk. I think it's been covered already, but, you know, between the county and the city and you added Spirit Lake into there. Yes, it was talked about, it was brought together. As you notice, it hasn't went anywhere. It needs to be done.
All right, thank you, Shane. And Joe, your thoughts on the collaborative effort there?
I agree, because I think the more entities that get in, the cost is less for all three entities rather than splitting it two ways. But the rules are, we have to find out what the rules are from a homeless shelter to a detox center. I mean, there's gonna be rules and regs that have to be followed. And it's gotta be set in a way that when it goes, we already know, here's the rules are gonna be, here's what, you know, because like you said, they need a place. But to what degree do you fund it? To what degree do you staff it? Those all will have to be established way before we start building this thing, or finding an empty building to put it in. Because those issues all come up. And, you know, do we take people from, now that we're a regional homeless shelter, do we take people from wherever? How big is it gonna be? How many people are gonna be in it? Those are questions that have to be answered. Then we got a plan, let's find and get these three entities. I agree, it's gotta go somewhere, because they're getting more every year. So I agree with it. It's gotta be a three-way entity. I think Spirit Lake needs to jump in on with us.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. And then Jim, your thoughts?
Well, no question, I'm for a housing of homeless, but maybe as far as building one, you know, with all the things that we've discussed here this evening, you know, our priorities, not that that's not a priority, but maybe to do something for homeless shelter would be utilizing something that we already have existing in our community, and where you don't have a building cost, and you're gonna have expenses, but without a doubt, I can think of a couple buildings, and I hate to name them right offhand because I've not ever talked to anybody about it, but you know, we've had some pretty substantial buildings open up, and that would probably serve pretty good as a homeless shelter and have several rooms in it. And thinking that if a person talked to them, it's being utilized on partially, but it's not, but there's quite a bit of it open, so there's probably some ideas out there, but without, you know, having a chance to visit with some of the people in charge of that facility, I hate to bring it up, but I think we can find something. I think there's no question that we need to do something, and I would be all working with all three entities or four or whatever it takes, but we also got to make sure that, you know, that we can have people come in there and check on these people and check on their health issues, you know, so there's a lot of things to coordinate there, but I would be more in tune with trying to utilize an existing facility rather than build a new one.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. Do we have any other audience questions? Okay, and of course you'll get a chance to talk to them after the debate out in the entryway. We do have a few more questions on the list, so let's just get right to those. And coincidentally, Joe, you talked about the quarter-cent sales tax proposal, and that is on the ballot in June for improvements, possibly in a recreation facility. And question is, do you support this vote and why? And we're starting with you, but you kind of already covered that.
Yes, and I just look at it as a way to keep our taxes for the people that have houses, and so they stay down and let everybody in town, people that live in apartments, people that buy. The biggest thing is get the people that come into our town and enjoy the lake, or they come to a hockey tournament, or they come to a rodeo, or they come to an event, that we can get a little money from them people to help support our youth and a rec center. I think people have to realize if this goes, it's going to be a board. This is not going to be given the park board free money. This is going to be a board that's going to decide how that money's spent. But there again, if it's passed, you're looking at a year before they have any money to even think about ideas. So, and then they would know what their budget is each year, and let the five people, the three entities, and maybe two at large, and get a mixture. And I think they could come together and use that money wisely.
All right, thank you, Joe. Now, Jim, your thoughts on the proposed sales tax increase?
Well, there we go again. That's a tough one because, you know, like a school wants to increase, and city would probably, you know, we need some things once in a while, but maybe rather than just a 1/4%, you know, I'm just thinking here that maybe we should increase it a little bit so that we want some other stuff that maybe it should be, get other people to help us pay for it with maybe a 0.5% or maybe a penny. You know, don't all get all excited. I'm just thinking through the box here. All these things would have to be, you know, looked at and planned out, but, you know, maybe get a penny, and as long as we had a good plan, solid plan, that we could develop something, not just the recreation, but some of the other needs, that take care of some of our other needs, maybe the homeless, things of that nature. Maybe that's the way we should think about doing something. I'm not a activity center. I'm all about it. I mean, we want things for our kids. You know, 1/4% is, yeah, like you say, it's not a lot, but 400,000 is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in the whole scheme of things with what you can do with it. But maybe it's time we look at it and plan out maybe a little larger request and develop a bigger package to support that. Just a thought. If I skirted that question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but I kind of think that I'd rather see something bigger and then get more bang for our dollar and get, you know, more support from others to help us pay for it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, Jim. Shane, your answer.
Well, it is on the ballot. I mean, it did come in front of the commission. We're going to let the people speak on it, whether they want it or not. The only thing would be is, with the park board doing it, is to have them get out, speak to the people, tell them what they're going to be doing. Joe says there's going to be a board. When they come and talked, there was no talk of a board at the meeting, so I'm not sure on that. Yeah, it's $400,000. That's going to be kind of a blank check. That's going to be going to the park board at this point. Is that tough to swallow? Well, if they use it properly, you know, if there's oversight. But you know, the park board's got to go out and sell this. You know, we put it on the ballot to let the people talk about it, vote it. You know, if they want it, if they don't want it, it's their choice.
All right, so we'll find out in June. Thank you very much, Shane. And moving on, talk about the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center. There have been some finance and facility concerns about the LEC. What is your vision for that facility? And please be specific, and we'll start with Jim.
Well, that needs work too. And so we've got a lot of needs, and we need to support that. Got some ideas out there, but I haven't had a chance to visit with Rob by any means, get his perspective. I have visited with a couple individuals from the center. We probably ran out of date with that, but I have been known, I did say that I'd rather support a school over a prison, because I think our intent is to keep people out of our jails, but that's just kind of my thoughts. But do we need to take it seriously? Yes, we do. There are some needs. One of my thoughts would be is if the city and county could joint venture and possibly utilize some of our COVID monies. Now, I don't know the restrictions on the use of that money and how much money we have available to use on that, but to make it at least adequate for what we're using it for now. Do we have, maybe if it's not big enough, maybe our sheriff's department, police department need to move into a different facility to accommodate them and expand that center into something more for the correctional facility. So I know that there's needs. I've heard about it. It's an old facility, but I believe that it's one that's going to probably have to stick around a while, and what we need to do is look at what we can do to repair and keep up. You know, I know we've stuck a lot of money into it here in the last couple of years, and I'd sure hate to see that just go to waste. So my opinion would be one that we try to get it up to where it needs to be, and then move on from there, and hopefully utilize some monies that are already available through the COVID money, if that's a possibility. Now, whether or not there's restrictions with that, I haven't been in the loop to know any of that, but that would be some monies that are already coming to us that wouldn't come out of a taxpayer's pocket.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And Shane, what is your vision for the LEC?
Well, my vision for the LEC is a new one. Make it safer for the employees that work there, make it easier for them. Right now, they're spread thin. It's a older, dilapidated building. You can, Mr. Bakke and President Meyer can use this. I mean, once it starts nickel and diming you, you've got to start looking at something else. You know, we're sticking hundreds of thousands of dollars into it yearly. You've got dispatch that's running doors, which they should just be straightforward dispatch, but we've got to be using people to do that. You've got, I mean, an old old facility. They're still using archaic equipment to be opening up doors to getting in. Some of the doors probably don't even swing the right way, so it's not safe for them. You know, the PD wants a bigger area. Sheriff department probably could use more area. Everybody up there's getting cramped. With the mental health going on, you add drugs on top of that. I mean, our correctional officers are getting worked over hard, many hours, and it'd be easier to give them a facility where they don't have to walk from one end of the building to the next. Everything would be right around them. They can sit and do their paperwork. They can watch everything. I mean, that's my vision. Make it safer for them to go to work.
All right, thank you very much, Shane. Then, Joe, what's your vision for the LEC?
Well, first of all, I didn't know the LAC was in the disrepair until I actually visited it, and I got to tour it. And some of the rooms you're gonna like, wow, you're stepping back to 74. There's been no updates of that building. There's been fixes. They fix this, and then this breaks. And I agree with Shane. They just keep spending more money and more money. But then you have well, where do we go? How do we build it? How big do we build it? Those are all questions. But the only thing we have to do is, like Shane said, get together and see what kind of facility, one, we can afford, and two, that it meets all the needs of the sheriffs and the police department. Because I don't believe that you can separate them out and have two separate facilities and run them efficiently. They need to be in one place. They need to be able to work together. But again, it's money, people. I mean, let's look what we're doing now. I mean, the school's building a new locker rooms, park board plans, baseball. Everybody's planning things. But we have to look what's best for the city of Devils Lake. And I agreed with Shane. We've got to really take a serious look at the law enforcement center. And if it's going to be millions to millions to update it, to make it up to safe and to code and give them enough room to work, and then we do that. I don't think it is. I think you can build, but I'm not an engineer and I don't know, but if you people really, really want a good law enforcement center, go take a look. It's not, it's built in 1973 or 4 and it still looks like 19. It's not a safe place, it really is. We have people working there and I don't know, you can't guarantee me that they're safe. And we're just gonna, it's society, people, we're gonna have more people, social, mental needs, alcoholic needs, but those police officers have to deal with them every day and every night. And if they don't feel safe, how are we gonna recruit police officers to Devils Lake? They have to feel safe where they work or they're not gonna come here and work. And it's another thing, like we said, it's, can we do it now? No, but give us a step, give us some direction, show people that we're looking and seriously looking at fixing things.
All right, thank you very much for your answer, Joe. And moving on, you mentioned this a little bit in your last answer, Jim, about COVID funding. The city of Devils Lake has about $2.5 million from the American Rescue Plan Act and the CARES Act. So how would you spend that money, and be specific with what you would put it towards? Shane, we'll start with you.
Well, if you want to sit down and read hundreds of pages on regulations, stipulations, I's you want to dot, T's you want to cross, we leave that up to our city administrator and our city auditor. They're the ones that'll go through it. They'll come up with suggestions for us, and we move forward that way.
All right, thank you, Shane. And Joe, how would you spend that money?
I'll have to agree. I don't know exactly what the rules are, and that's why we hire a city administrator. So hopefully he can say, here, as a commission, here's what you can spend the money, here's what you have to do when you spend the money, and let him come to us with suggestions on how we can use the COVID money. Because all of us up here in the room would want this. But strategically, we need somebody that we've hired to come in and say, here's this COVID money, here's the best way to help all the people in Devils Lake to spend this money. And I was like, I don't know what the regs are. I didn't know how much we had. But COVID money is COVID money, and it's out there and it needs to be spent, I assume, in a certain amount of time. I don't think you can bank it for 20 years, but I'd have to learn that if I am elected mayor, but that's all I can say about that COVID money.
All right, thank you, Joe. Jim, your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure everybody wants us to spend it wisely, without a question. And what's wisely to me might not be so wisely to somebody else. But I would say Well, one example is the law enforcement center. If it takes $2 million to get that up to repair and it can make it a viable correctional facility, or 2 million could build a new one, which I highly doubt it, but maybe that's a wise expenditure of our money that the taxpayer doesn't have to accept. But the restrictions, I too don't know what's there. When you receive federal government money, they come with a list of restrictions. So I would tell you I would want to spend it wisely and where we get the best bang for your dollar.
Okay. I have a follow-up on that because you both said basically to let the city administrator figure out how you can do it. So let's say hypothetically you can use it for pretty much what you would want to use it for. So what was something that you would put that money towards for if there weren't all those like strings attached to it? Shane.
Well, 2 million nowadays really doesn't get you too much, but if I had to spread it, it would be something for the youth, whether that's going into an activity center or using it to help offset costs for a school building.
All right, thanks, Joe.
I kind of agree. It's got to go to the youth first, and then try to help other people. And you know, we don't really know all the needs. If we need a better this, better that. But I think if our administrator comes and says, this is really a good way to use your COVID money, and it's this and this, like we've all said up here, until we get in and get to prioritizing what's best for everybody in town. Because everybody's out there with their little ideas. But what's best for the town as a whole? How do we use the COVID money for it affects 95% of the people and not 2% or 5%?
All right, thank you, Joe, and then Jim.
Maybe I'll be popular with this question, tax relief. We're talking about raising everybody's taxes. Maybe we should reduce them a little bit with some of that money. If I had the luxury of spending it, I think I'd give it to you in tax relief.
All right, thank you very much for your answer on that. So that is the last of the prepared questions that we have. Any last call for any audience questions? Okay, cool. So I'd say almost time to wrap up. I do have kind of one final question that I think would be a good thing to kind of end the night with. Throughout the evening, there's been a little bit of disagreement amongst you candidates. A lot of times, a lot of your answers have shared a lot of things in common. You've agreed on certain issues. So for the voters, what makes you stand out? What makes you uniquely suited to be the next leader for the city of Devils Lake? And we'll start with Joe.
Well, probably the passion and the love I have for our community and the willingness to put in the time. I think I have a lot of connections. Everybody up here has a lot of connections. But my years of education, my years as a park board, I think that I've got an outgoing enough personality that I think I'd be a very good leader for our community. I think I'd listen to all the people just like everybody's going to say. But I think I have the willingness, the honesty, and the outgoingness. I think that would make me a good mayor of Devils Lake.
All right, thank you, Joe. And Jim, what do you think makes you stand out in the mayoral race?
Well, I believe I had a lot of working experience with the past 44 years working for the city of Devils Lake in various capacities, most recently retiring as the fire chief. I've worked closely with our state leaders in Bismarck. I've also had the opportunity to work with our congressional members in Washington, D.C. I've been president of many clubs, North Dakota Fire Chiefs, the Firefighters Association, and I got a whole list of others. I've been on a lot of boards. I've made a lot of contacts over the years. I just think that my experience, my dedication and commitment to the community, I have a love for this community, and there's a whole list of reasons why I would want to be your mayor, because I think that I've had that experience. I know what the city workings are, inside and out pretty much. There are very few things I don't know, but those you're going to learn no matter what. And I will take every opportunity to get more knowledgeable. Some of the things we haven't talked about is our bond issue and things like that when we want to do projects. You know, those are huge, and we got to maintain those so that we can continue to grow. That gives us borrowing power of lower interest rates. And I have working relationships with whole lot of people here, and I have been true and honest to everyone, and I think that's what made me successful both in the military and in my civilian career. So I believe I'm your guy for the mayor of Devils Lake.
All right, thank you very much, Jim. And Shane, what do you think makes you stand out in this race?
Well, out of the three candidates, I'm not homegrown. You know, I grew up in a different community, moved here, moved away, come back. I don't have the connections these guys do. I don't have the businesses in Devils Lake like these guys do. My business is out in the county. Youth, you know, I'm young. A lot of open-minded suggestions, thoughts. You know, my business, I'll work 100-hour weeks if I need to, but I put that same dedication into the commission I do now. I'll put that into the mayoral. 4 o'clock in the morning, you call me, I'm gonna pick up my phone. I'm gonna listen to your problem. I'm going to try to find a solution. If I can, I'm gonna pass you off to the correct commissioner of that portfolio, but I'm hoping you're gonna wait till at least 8 o'clock to call them when they get up. Emails come in, I answer them. You know, I invite anybody that calls me, talks to me, hey, let's go for coffee, pop, I'll buy it for you, we'll sit down, we'll talk. You know, it's the willingness to listen.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane. And I believe that brings our evening to an end. I want to thank you all three, Shane Hamry, Joe Mertens, and Jim O, for standing up here and then answering questions for over an hour. I'd like to give the three candidates a round of applause. And of course, they will all be in the entryway in the auditorium after the debate to go, and you can talk to them one-on-one. I also want to thank the Devils Lake Chamber, Lake Region State College, Paula, Susie, Allison, Aaron, thank you so much for putting this on. This has been very valuable, I'm sure, to all the voters in town, and thank you so much for inviting me back. It's been an honor. Thanks.
Before we go, can we give Adam a round of applause for standing up here asking these questions? Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.